another exceptional human being that is here live today on the Manifest It All podcast. And it's always exciting when I get to bring a guest on live. This is only the third podcast interview, Anthony, that I've done with someone in person. And I'm so excited to be here with you.
Sweet, so am I. I can't wait.
All right, let me introduce you, my love. Since 2008, Anthony Chavez has journeyed around the globe, captivating audiences as a leading human performance coach and esteemed yoga instructor and mentor, which is how we met, me taking his yoga class here in Denver, Colorado. And the words, the wisdom, the truth that he drops in yoga had me so inspired. I think after that first class, I was like, dude, what do you do?
I remember you walked out, it was the first time, and you're like, that was literally it. Like, dude, what do you do? And I was like, well, I help people, blah, blah, blah. She's like, are you a coach? Yes. Oh my God, so am I. Same.
I knew it.
You were like, let's be friends.
Yeah,
it was a stepbrother moment. Did we just become best friends?
Yes.
Call me Dragon.
That's pretty much exactly how it happened. And I've been going to Anthony's yoga classes since. And
How long has it been?
It's been since
6
January.
Okay.
Because I started going to Yoga Box in December, right around the beginning. I had a client in town and I hadn't found a yoga studio yet. I hadn't even gone to any yoga studios yet. And so I had a client in town and the Yoga Box, I was looking up different classes and it had one at like 7:30 in the morning in the Highlands and she was staying downtown and I was like, perfect, we're going there. And they had like a week free and I was like, even better, free yoga. And I went and my very first instructor was Melissa Hernandez. Do you know her?
I do.
Okay, right, because she was
actually in San Diego.
At Core Power where I got certified. I remembered her. I was like, wait, Melissa Hernandez? And we started talking and like, I realized like she was part of my YTT back in whatever year that was. 2008, 2006, 2000 something.
It's interesting, because I was in Orange County.
Yeah.
We were both coming up at the same time.
Yeah.
She was in San Diego, I was here.
Okay.
And we both ended up here.
And
years and years later.
So that's the
15
thing.
years.
It felt like a sign from the universe, so to speak. And then it didn't help. And I hope it's okay I'm saying this, Melissa. But she's like, oh, this is so much better than Core Power. She's like, I love the studio, I love the teachers, and I just felt like it was a sign. I'm like, all right, I found my studio. And plus, because Melissa was teaching with a Core Power vibe, which is what I was used to, it just felt like my spot. So after my week free trial, then I was just like, sign me up for membership. And then I went to your class, I want to say sometime in January, just serendipitously. I was checking the schedule, and I think it was a Monday night, 7 p.m., and it kicked my ass, and I was like, oh, thank God, that was amazing. I found my teacher.
That was a blast. It still is a blast.
It is. It's amazing every time.
Mm-hmm.
I get exactly what I didn't know I needed, but I always know that you're going to deliver not only a kick-ass yoga class, but a truth, wisdom, soul expanding, like just truth bombs.
Yeah, well, I know we're going to get into it, but it is just another delivery system for why I've been put on the planet. And you get this, you're in front of people, you're sharing your gifts and talents, and for me it's like, sometimes you're in a boardroom and there's a suit and tie and fancy dresses and high heels, and sometimes we are red-faced and sweating in a yoga room. But the message, the essence, the transformation, the healing is the same.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we get more because we get to use our body. It becomes a somatic and embodied thing rather than the put together kind of buttoned up version when we're in boardrooms.
Yeah. Well, and I have no experience in boardrooms. I have very little experience in the corporate world. But one of the things I really do love about yoga is that, and especially when you're sharing what you're sharing, is you're just so open and receptive to hearing the words, to hearing the wisdom. Like whenever I taught, like I felt like I was channeling, like just, I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say. It just came through me. And then it was always exactly what my students needed to hear. And is always my takeaway from your classes every single time. I'm like, it's exactly what I needed to hear. It's like a coaching session and an ass kicking at the same time.
100%.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a group setting and a sweaty group setting versus one-on-one.
Yeah. Well, and I love that too, especially when you like make us hold hands and do stuff together. Like when it was hard, like the class on Monday when I was next to Tosh, like we're literally screaming and crying, but we're holding hands and we got
holding hands and like 4-minute squat.
Oh, that was the worst. And I had just done my first 2 bike rides of the season over the weekend, so my thighs were burning, and I was like, it hurts so bad.
See, but that's where it's like layered. You get to do that where we don't necessarily get to do that in a one-on-one session. or over Zoom. We get
Right.
to actually say, hey, we're in this thing together. This is the human experience is a team sport. I don't care if you just met 30 minutes ago, hold that person's hand and like pour into them. And the more and more we get to do that, then I think the easier developing and cultivating deep and meaningful relationships becomes, because it's a muscle like anything else. Like get out of our way, and then I can just be me 100% of the time with a rando in yoga or on a date or in the office. That, like, for me is the essence of real true leadership. It's to honor yourself and to be yourself, but only 100% of the time.
That's it.
And then right, that's it.
That's it. Just
only
100% of the time.
And then like I think that's what makes people uber attractive.
That authenticity.
Yep, not just the physical, it's all of it. It's the inside, probably more than the outside, but it's that level of authenticity and realness and honoring yourself. Like, okay, cool, now we can really play and grow and expand. So I think a lot of it, and like why yoga works for me, and having us get out of our head and into our body and using the body and the intensity of the asana to like break the stream of thought, is to help us get real honest real fast, so that we can grow that, or remember, like I think, like remember the authenticity, not necessarily grow it. Right. Maybe some parts, but just coming back home. So harder in the outside world, easier when we're have some good jams and we're flowing and
you play the
like
best
feeling
music.
it. Thank you.
I love your music. It's so important.
So we stay relevant.
So important.
Play the good jams.
All right, let me finish reading your bio. And
That's right.
Still,
we're still in the middle of the bio.
But you know what? That's kind of, I've had the best conversations of like just reading the bio and jamming around who it is that you are and how you describe yourself. Did you write your bio, or did someone write it for you?
Both.
Both, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anthony began his coaching career as a professional speaker. I didn't know that, but that makes complete sense. Yeah. For Freedom Personal Development in 2008. That's when he began working with individuals and companies to help them achieve their goals and dreams. In 2009, he became a yoga teacher and quickly added all of that ancient wisdom that had to be offered to his coaching repertoire. His techniques blend ancient yogic wisdom with today's cutting-edge personal development techniques and real-life experience. I can attest to that, just per your yoga classes. Anthony's approach to teaching and coaching emphasizes experienced practice over theory. I fucking love that.
Yeah, we can nerd on this.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, because there's so much talk, but not the embodiment or the doing of the saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I think it's everything. You can't just read it out of a book and try to guide somebody's life from that place.
And I will call myself out vulnerably. A couple of years ago, I would say in my coaching, like I was in that space. I was kind of teaching from an intellectual level and not from an experiential level. And that's part of the reason when I launched the membership, I called it Embodied, because it's not what you learn, but who you become in the process. It's 100%. The embodiment. And I think there's a lot of coaches and teachers out there that are teaching from the intellectual level, but they haven't experienced it and lived it and embodied it.
And I notice how neither of us said anything about results in there as well, which is what I love, and that's what gets missed. Embodied is experienced wins and losses, or learnings, however you want to say it, but it's teaching from that versus what you just said, intellectual, and then also only focusing on the wins, because that's not real or what we're doing anyway. Right. I feel like we're all just chasing a feeling. That's the goal. Chase feel. How do you want to feel? How do you want to feel for the rest of your life? How do you want to feel right now? How do you want to feel when you're doing this? Chase the feeling. And then the results are so sparse. Right? To use a financial analogy, stressed about like the mortgage on the 1st, and for 30 days, 29 days, whatever month it is, you're like stressed about it, and then you miss your life. The first comes, you either make the payment or you don't, and then a couple hours later you wake up and it's the second. You're like, cool.
Think of all that time you were wasting.
Feeling, exactly.
Not wasting, I don't believe in wasting time, but like you spent all of that time in a certain feeling, but that's mindset, right? Because your mind, your thoughts are going to affect your feelings. So how would you then go back to shift the mind? Because
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, you're like, this comes up. So I'm not in a relationship, but I want to be, and my mind keeps going to being single and the lack, or I want to be financially abundant, but I'm in debt, and so my mind keeps going back to the bills, or I'm in a marriage, but we're not doing that great, so my mind keeps going back to this, right? So I believe the mind is such an important tool to learn how to use to your advantage rather than your detriment. Like, it's a tool. How are you going to use it?
It's 100% a tool. Our mind, you know, this doesn't know the difference between good, bad, right, or wrong. It's
real
just
or imaginary
a program.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
It's a computer.
No, it is a computer.
It's a
so
computer.
whatever we
That's
do with it, the beauty of it though is it will do what we ask of it. Right? And it's probably, I want to hear your definition of manifesting, but like we're getting close to that. It's an open source thing. So what we put in will get out. And it's our own history and thoughts and beliefs that get in the way. But you're right, like what came to mind was mind matters most.
Mind matters most.
And then that informs state. And then I'll say state matters most. And
being?
Energetic state.
Okay.
The way you feel. Like we can break it. The short version is like you have a thought. Thoughts just happen.
Sure.
We can't control them. We can control some.
Some, right? Like if you're going to sit down and focus and do your affirmations or do a visualization, that is you controlling and using your mind, right? But for the most part, it just like pops in.
Correct. Otherwise, we'd all be walking around super happy and blissed out.
For sure. Because if I could control every thought I have, I would choose happy.
It's like the heartbeat.
Yeah.
So thoughts happen, and then a program runs. So, right, your dog's jumping on me and we're kind of playing out front. The program for me in that case is like, dogs are fine, look at him, I'm laughing, we're playing. So thought runs, I see a dog, program happens, this all happens really quick, right? Dogs are cool. And then brain, why am I losing this? I have a physiological response that squirts or oozes the good feeling hormones into my body.
Because you like dogs.
Epinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin. I'm like, yeah. So thought happens, dog, story, I like dogs, equals I feel happy. That's our state. If we replay that, and I had been bitten in the face by a dog when I was young, and now I see the dog, story runs, dogs are bad, they're scary, then my physiological response is fight or flight and cortisone, and state is fear and sweat. And
that was an autonomic reaction based on something in your past.
Correct. We're using these really big words.
We're using huge words.
Autonomic word. Autonomic. I got that one. But that's like my point. When you understand that, that it's just a machine, and then our ability to rewrite that program will change how we feel about it. And that's why I'm like, ooh, state matters most. Mind matters most. And they play together, because once we can get in there, now, instead of doing what you're saying and focusing on the lack, we just know, okay, here's how the program works. I can tinker with it.
Right.
And then we enter yoga. And Viktor Frankl's quote about meditation, the space in between. What is it exactly? The space between stimulus and response is, I'm paraphrasing, where like freedom happens, where the lack of suffering is. So catching, thought happens, I'm afraid of dogs. Can I create some space between that stimulus and the response of the old program running to rewrite the new one will change my state. And then my state drives our state. I believe our state drives our actions. So it's like trying to do something. Have you ever felt shameful?
Yes.
Okay. What does shame feel like in your physical body? Maybe just go back there, time travel.
It feels constrictive.
Okay.
I feel it in my gut. I feel it in my heart. Like it's like the midline of my body, and it makes me like feel small and want to like curl up, right? Like restricted. Okay. Just like feel the same way. And I would say that's a pretty universal for humans. That's an energetic state. Now let's go to the other side. Okay. Go to a time in your life when you were just like all so happy, so blissed out. You're with someone think about someone who supported you your entire life, who's just taken care of you, who's loved you, who's like always been there, and they were there with you for your biggest victories. Yeah. Like, what does that feel like in your body? What's the experience of? It's the opposite. It feels expansive. It feels like the heart is opening. I feel like light and high, almost like the effervescent bubbles.
Yeah.
That's another big word in like kombucha. I'm just like,
yes.
Bubbles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you can even tell in your voice, like the difference. So this is what I mean by state matters most. One energetic state, and let me frame it in another way. That was a 90-second exercise where you got constricted down and you said you wanted to curl up. 45 seconds later, you're in effervescent kombucha floating around. Two very different feelings based on how we directed the thoughts in a short time. The reality is nothing changed. We're sitting here face to face having a conversation. Where the rubber hits the road is in the action. So from this shameful place, or call it a state, what's the quality of the action that you would take doing anything if you were curled up and constricted? Like, how great are you going to perform?
I'm not.
What do you want to do from that energetic state?
I wouldn't. Like, when you really think about it, like, how does that state affect my action? The action that I want to take in that state is curl up on the couch and cry, or watch a movie and continue to feel bad for myself.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's stopping.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to the other state. Get yourself back there. What's the quality of the action you would take from that?
I want to go out into the world. I want to run. I want to play. I want to dance. I want to talk to strangers. I want to like make love and like whatever. I'm like, let's go do this.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So this is the formula, I believe, for results, is to get clear on your intention and then really work on the mind and the energetic state, because then the action kind of takes care of itself. It's a difference between going against the current versus this place where you're jumping in the water and the current's just raging you down. It takes care of it.
Going with the flow.
100%. But we create our own flow based on how we cultivate our inner state. And I think that's important to note, and it's important to talk about, because a lot of it's just missed. It's a mist. A lot of times we are really focused on what we should be doing. Doing, rather than how we're feeling, knowing that the feeling is the fuel for the doing, because then it becomes easy.
Well, and one of the things I like to say in that same token is it's not what you do, but who you are when you're doing it. In that, so if I'm feeling in this state of shame or guilt or whatnot, and I go out into the world and take action, there's going to be a completely different result than what you just said. Like, if I'm out there and I'm happy and I'm bubbly and I'm high vibe, and this is where I believe law of attraction comes in, is like attracts like. And so the vibration that you're at, your energetic state of being, will affect your results, because you'll attract in people at that level. So it's like when you and I met, I was like, yay, like, we're going to be best friends.
Yeah.
Because it's a similar vibration, right?
100%.
It's like, I got you. I see you. I hear you.
You're more open to what's possible. Just on all fronts. Like, even just, again, physiologically speaking, when you're in fight or flight, everything rushes to the center, your immune system shuts off, your creativity shuts down, because your body is focused on survival. So it doesn't give a shit about looking for the opportunities and the what's attract. You're just like trying to stay alive. When you're on the other side, that's all you see, because now we're playing in this magical
realm of possibility and manifestation. And so I could say it's the same thing. You said fight or flight, but when you're in fear. If you're in this fear-based state, it doesn't have to be survival or fight or flight, but it can be, I'm afraid of being single forever. I'm afraid of not getting out of debt. I'm afraid of anything, right? Like, fear is a basis of control, and that's a completely different topic for another conversation. But if you're in that fear-based state, and you can maybe even talk about the physiology of the body like you were, but you're not thinking clearly. You're not receptive to hear your intuition or your higher self. It's just not possible.
It's not. Like, we'll put it in a bigger frame, and this will be some good homework for the folks listening.
Okay.
Think about it like a field or a chart. So Dr. Stephen Hawking wrote a book called Power versus Force.
Right, it's the best book ever. Okay. This is a plug for Power versus Force. Okay. Read it.
Read that book.
David Hawking.
David, not Stephen. That was the wrong dude.
Yeah.
One of the Hawkins.
I was like, wait, where are we going with this one?
No, he has the chart in there.
The vibrational scale
vibrational,
from 0 to 1,000.
They call it energy giving versus energy draining is how I frame it. Like, what gives you life, vibration, and energy, and then what takes it away. Shame being the worst, peace being the very top, but then fear is still underneath.
It's below 250.
2 to 250 is kind of neutral. It's below that. So if you look at that, like, I've had it on my refrigerator for 15 years.
Smart.
and you just kind of check in. Where am I operating? And if
Yeah.
it's under that line, okay, cool. It's going to be more of an uphill battle.
Yep.
And if it's above that line, then you have
And how do
connection.
you get up there? And do you ever listen to Abraham Hicks?
a little
You
bit.
familiar? Okay.
Mhm.
Well, one of the things that Esther has said is how to work your way up the vibrational scale, because she also teaches this, is there a better feeling thought than this? Like, how can you reach for just one step higher every single day for 30 days? And she's like, you're going to reach peace, bliss, enlightenment, not necessarily enlightenment, but
In moments.
if you're starting at, let's say, depression, well, anger or revenge is higher up on the scale than depression, because depression is, I can't do anything, life's happening to me, where anger and revenge is at least more empowering. Like, how does that feel in your body? And then how can you work?
Again, put it in
step
like
and a step.
energy giving or draining.
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy behind being mad. Like there's energy behind wanting to punch somebody in the face.
Right. But depression is like, I'm going to lie on the couch, there's nothing I can do.
Mm-hmm. And that depression and shame, embarrassment, those are closely related to addiction, to suicide. Like, those are places that you want to be really aware of. And then as it pertains to our conversation on like manifestation, I think it's the furthest place you can be from it.
So how do you suggest that someone works their way up? And I will give a little example from me. For the longest time, because I understood all of this intellectually, and because I'm just genuinely a pretty happy, optimistic person, is a lot of times, like when I was feeling the lower vibrational feelings, I'm just like, whatever, like let me emotionally bypass and go to something higher, because I just intuitively knew, I'm like, it's going to be better. But in the last year, I've really done a lot of somatic release work and allowing myself to feel it. And so now when something comes up, I just feel it. And then I find it easier to get back to that higher state. But I'd be curious to know what type of tools that you have or use or teach.
Same thought. It's, you gotta feel it to heal it. Like, just period. So many of us have been taught to not feel it, to bury it,
Especially
and that doesn't
men.
work. Oh God, especially men.
Yeah.
So like I say it in class, I'm like, I love when you all bring your men friends in here. Like, let's go. But yeah, you gotta feel it and sit with it and acknowledge it and bring it to the surface. Like, nothing wants to be put in the corner. Like, we don't put baby in the corner.
You put baby in the corner.
Nothing wants that. Even your bad, negative, low vibrating, shameful thoughts.
Yeah. Everything
Those
wants love.
have to be correct. That's the answer. How can you accept it? How can you feel it? How can you move through it? Love on it. And then once it's no longer bad, once it's just dark again, if we take the right, wrong, good, bad off of things, and things are just as they are, it's a lot easier to play with them, because we don't have the judgments on them. So getting the judgments out of here is going to be a really good practice.
And it's trading judgment for curiosity. And it's so, okay, that's too much I want to say on judgment. So for the last month in March, I was doing the Expose Your Truth challenge. I'm sure you saw that on Instagram.
Loved it.
Yeah, and so today in particular, day of recording, a woman had made a comment around righteous judgment, because she thought that what I was doing was wrong, or what I was researching was wrong, or dipping into the poly world and talking to people and hearing their stories. And then I made a post on like why some people are opening up their relationship, like some for this reason, some for this reason, some for this reason. And ultimately the premise of the point is, who am I to judge? Like, if it's working for you, great, awesome. Like, you're doing ethical non-monogamy, you're honest with your partner, I'm like, great, awesome, right? But then even if someone was cheating on their partner, who am I to judge? Like, that is not my role. And so I was chatting, I commented a little bit on her post and my serious question for her, because I was actually really curious, because I'm always open-minded to learn more, like, how does judgment serve you? How did it actually, is it helping you to judge others? How does it help others to judge? And then furthermore, like, as when it comes to religion, how many wars have been fought and people have been killed because of judgment? Because I'm right, you're wrong, my way is the right way. And I'm not saying it needs to be that extreme, but how does judgment actually serve someone versus, let's say, discernment versus curiosity?
I'm going to answer it I have an answer.
Okay.
I don't think judgment works at all.
Okay.
The answer is like, how does judgment serve me? I think there's a self-serving payoff that ultimately leads to I'm right and you're wrong.
Ego.
Yeah.
Separation.
And I've thought about it a lot. Like, I haven't found a time when judgment is actually in service of the greater good.
Nor have I. And my prayer is always for the greatest good of all involved.
Yeah.
So judgment is separation.
Yep.
How does that serve us?
The right and wrong.
Yeah.
So another way to think about it, maybe to this woman's point, or if we put it into like performance, the performance perspective, is to objectively look at the results that people are getting, and then to compare what you're doing to what they're doing. And if they're getting the results that you want, then you can layer those in or pick up those practices. If they're getting results that you don't want in your life, then you get to do the opposite. But it's very objective. There's no judgment, there's no right or wrong. It's just an opportunity to learn. Even if it's in that, if somebody was like, let's say, very religious and they were anti-poly, and we looked at, okay, what are the results that this person is getting in this relationship? Well, wow, they have this really incredible level of honesty that I don't have in my monogamous relationship. If I took the judgment out of right and wrong, how can I learn from this throuple on how to be more honest? And then it actually gets her or him the results they're looking for. Or on the other hand, it's like, oh, there's this and this and this going wrong. Okay, cool. My choice is actually getting me the results that I want in my life, and it does serve me, and it does align with my religious beliefs. Great. Thank you. It always ends in a thank you. So, yeah, I haven't found judgment to be of service, but definitely have found the ability to objectively compare and to look at results, good, bad, and all of it, to improve my life and the lives of my clients and my friends.
And I think this is a coaching mindset. Because and one of my challenges, let's just say with organized religion, is that a lot of it is, this is the right way. Like, take it verbatim versus what feels right for me. And my whole takeaway with the poly world and talking to a lot of couples and getting to know them is, for a lot of them, it has sped up personal development because they're dealing with jealousy, and then they have to have open communication, set boundaries. It's like, it seems to be a fast track, and it doesn't mean that it's for everyone. But I also just learned so much.
But as a case study, like, there's a lot to learn.
It's so much to learn. I was like, I feel like a lot of these poly couples are so much more loving and connected than the majority of monogamous couples, because they're just not necessarily, and this of course is creating a what would be the word? Like, we can't say that every single monogamous couple is like this. And generalization. There we go. But I was also just kind of blown away, because I went in completely eyes open. Like, I got invited to a poly party, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then I started talking to people, and I was like, okay, sounds fun. And I was just so blown away. Everyone was also really warm and loving and open, and I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel like prey. Whereas I can't tell you how many times I've been to a party as a single woman and I felt preyed upon.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. What it's like.
So wherever we were going with all of this is, I haven't found a way that judgment serves, and there's been this saying in my mind from a conversation that I had with a friend many years ago of trading judgment for curiosity. That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because curiosity, right, I talked about it from an objective, call it clinical way, and then if we layer on the conversation from state to, let's call it that tactical approach, now we have this higher, more open, more loving, more energetically aligned state called curiosity. With the tactical approach, then we're having the feeling that we want, we're curious, we're like childlike, we're having fun, and we're learning and growing. Because that's the fucking sweet spot.
You don't learn with judgment, you shut the door. Curiosity is you opening the door and peeking inside.
Exactly. No, the overly religious person doesn't even take the moment to see what about a poly relationship
could serve them.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean you need to jump into the poly world, but it could be, what could I learn? And that's exactly what happened for me. And as I've been doing the Exposure Truth, like the post that's going to come out in a day or two, because I also, some people assumed I was sleeping around, but and so what if I was? Like, that's my choice if I wanted to be. But I also created a post on, no, like, that's not what hey, hi sweetie. It's like, it's not what I do. Nolly, come on, he's in nice clothes.
Come here.
Real life. And it's like, that's not what I do in the monogamous world. That's not what I'm going to do in the poly world. Like, I'm here, and I made a joke about it. I'm like, I'm on a tourist visa, but maybe I'll decide to stay.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, let's just see what's going on here. Like, I love that I have such a curious mindset, and my heart is open, my eyes are open, and yet I still know who I am, and I know my values, and I act in alignment with them no matter where in the world I am, no matter what type of party it is that I go to.
Yeah. See, I think that's where the conversation starts.
Yeah.
Knowing who you are, what you stand for, what you're willing to accept in your life, what you're not willing to accept. And you said it, what your values are. If you know that, then it doesn't matter what situation you get dropped off in, those things will guide you. So that's a whole nother chat, but like, that's it. Know who you are, know your values, and then you can go from there, because then you're safe.
Yes, exactly.
You're safe for like you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I can show up, because I know me. And I know my no, and I know my yes. It's like, I've got this. I can be anywhere. And part of traveling the world for the last 3 years as a single woman definitely helped with that. Like, it helped me be even more stronger and know who I am in a variety of locations around the world.
That's its own advanced course.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Should I finish reading your bio?
I don't know. Teach a bunch of yoga, have a bunch of fun.
He's done a lot of stuff. That's 7,000 public classes, 30 teacher trainings. Pretty much he's a BFD. He's accomplished ultra endurance athlete. He's done Ironman, 24-hour yoga practice. You biked like, what, 300 miles in 2 days?
600 in 2 days.
God! Anthony! I think the most I have ever done is 60 miles. I did the Iron Horse from Durango to Silverton, and it's technically 50, but I left for my house, so it added another 10. So I did that one twice. It was amazing. I'm so excited for it to get warmer, and I can be on my bike more.
If you want to, I'm going to do the triple bypass this year again. That's 120 miles.
I would actually really like to train to get to the space to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's hard.
I'm just going to keep coming to your yoga
it's like
classes.
14 hours or 10 to 14 hours, depending on you. But yeah,
I would probably be on the further end of it. Like the Iron Horse, I just wanted to finish. I wasn't trying to beat the train. I just wanted to be like, I did it! Yeah. And then again the next year, like, I did it!
But that's why we hold plank. Yeah. Like, it's all the same thing, same energy.
It's all mindset, for sure.
It is.
Yeah, and some strength, of course, and proper nutrition and training.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's
like, I joke, but a little bit. Like, yes, and...
You think it's the smallest part of it?
Yeah.
I mean... I don't think that's not fair to say, but to like just hop on a bike with zero training and you haven't sat in a saddle for longer than 10 minutes ever in your life.
Yes. So yeah, there's some leeway there. Like you said, no black and white.
Right.
And also, but it does come down to mindset and to what you believe is possible.
It's a big part. And that's why I really do like your class, because you challenge, and it makes me constantly be like, Emerald, you can do this. Like, the mind gives out before the body. Like, stay here until your body gives out, and then the body never gives out, ultimately, at least in your yoga class.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't.
One of the greatest Ironman triathlete champions, Mark Scott, used to say he believes that there was 6 days worth of energy, stored energy in the body.
Whoa.
Like, who knows if that's true or not, but I think back to the conversation on state, into how you see the world, and this is what you get in class. I coach to and teach to the potential of every human being in the world. I see what's available for you, to your potential, to your possibilities, so I hold you to that fucking standard. Life's too short to hold you in a fragile glass box. So just with that shift in mindset, knowing that I believe that much in you, knowing that I see the world that way, that's just what I'm going to see for you. And then when people start to feel that and experience that, that's why they can wake up. And I know it's such a small sample size, but to wake up and just randomly go to a yoga class and then hold plank for 5 or 6 minutes, like, people don't plan that. They would say like, oh yeah, you need to train, you need to, and then also when you believe and you're breathing, and they're like, yeah, there's a certain level of conditioning if you're not on the couch for the last 20 years. Like, I get that. But I think the biggest miss is that most of us play it we're more in that fear space. We're more on looking at the risk rather than reward. We're more concerned with what can go wrong than with what can go right, and or to what's available to us. So surrounding yourself, and I think that's where we connected, because it's like, oh, let's just see what's available. And that doesn't mean we don't fall. That doesn't mean we don't fail big time, but at least we're playing to that potential rather than not.
Yes.
Rather than being on the sideline, rather than wishing I would have. That for me is the miss.
And that is why you're an exceptional coach, and human being. I'll even like coach and human being, because you see people's potential. And I feel like that's not how the majority of human beings live, right?
Not.
Like they're focusing upon what it is they cannot do, its lack, its limitation, versus, and I say this to my clients all the time, I'm like, I'm gonna hold the belief system for you until you can hold it there with me, and then my work is done. Because once you believe in yourself and you believe that you can have it, and you take conscious, aligned action towards it, it will manifest. But the belief system has to be that first step, and if you don't have it for yourself, then you need to find someone that believes in you and that you can adopt their belief system until like you've got it on your own. But we could also say the negative, the detriment of like, let's say you have these big goals and dreams, because I also tell my clients, like, don't tell people you've hired a love coach if they're gonna just pick on you or make fun of you, or like, don't tell people you're online dating if all they're gonna do is talk about their negative experiences. Like if you're not strong enough in the beliefs, that new seed that you planted, it's like stepping on it or pulling it out.
It's a boundary. It's a necessary boundary. Some people need it, some people don't. That's where it gets, when we get into our actual work, environment matters. How you grew up and what you believe matters. Like I believe everything that we've learned, you can unlearn, but it takes some conscious digging and cultivating. So you can't just show up and be like, positive vibes only, yay. Like, no, you have a fucking life and things you've learned and traumas and dramas that we gotta like, this is what made you. And then what environment are you in? Let's work on that. And like all of that happens simultaneously as we charge towards our dreams and goals into what's possible. That's why it like really is this holistic thing. And I know you do the same thing. People come to you to find love and you're like, cool, what's your relationship like with your body? And you're like, fuck, I don't want to talk about my body. Like, great, well, we got to handle it all.
How can you really be vulnerable and authentic with another human being if you're ashamed of your body or you don't want them to see you naked?
Yeah.
Right? It's like you have to first love and accept yourself in every way to be with another human being, like truly authentically. There's plenty of superficial or shallow relationships.
Yeah.
But that's not what I teach.
And again, authentic is not perfect. And I love that we keep have that same style. Like authentic is just real. It's just real. So you can be in the process of falling in love with your body, of re-falling in love with your body, and be honest about it, and that is completely different from ignoring it or from hating yourself
or needing to be perfect until you could get into a relationship, because that's another thing. For those
90, it never happened.
It wouldn't happen.
You'd be like, shit, I missed it.
Exactly. And that's what I tell my clients. I'm like, you're never going to be perfect. There might be some things like big glaring red flags or traumas that are important for you to work on before you enter into your next relationship.
100%.
For sure.
But you're not like healed. Like I love when when the sweet new clients come in. So like, when am I going to be healed? Like, oh God.
How many lifetimes you got, sis? It's like there is
never.
There's no finish line. It's
but,
like all done.
But we're more. We said it earlier with the shame and the guilt and the judgment. We're just more at peace and partners with those parts of ourselves. Yes. And then there's definitely a ton of healing. But I don't know if it's like you're healed and you're enlightened. You're like, cool, you're fixed. Go.
No.
I think that's part of our purpose in being human beings. Like we're here to grow and to develop and to leave an imprint on others. We're just here to grow up and to grow the world. And then when enough of us do this, I think it'll like be over.
I mean, my be over. We did it.
Like we did it. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. No, I don't think that. Like I think if you look at yogic philosophy in the 26,000 years cycle, I know this isn't the best setup. You're being a champion. Like the 26,000 year cycle and like coming out of the dark ages, like we're still on just a slight upward. Like we're coming out of the dark ages, as I would say. And so there's lots of bright lights like you and I around the world doing our best to help raise the consciousness of the planet. But it's going to take some time until like critical mass is reached.
It's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of people doing it the right way. Because we are in an interesting time in the world where there are a lot of people who are looking to help but don't have it embodied yet, and or teaching from their head and not their heart or their experience. So it's great because it's more available, and then I think we have to be stewards of actual healing and transformation and not allow for a lower level to happen. like keep it real, keep it going.
So what would you suggest if for someone listening right now and they're like jamming on this conversation, they're like, yeah, me too, let's do this. What are a couple simple things that they could do as far as self-love and acceptance, or as far as raising their vibration, as far as practicing non-judgment? Like, what are some of your favorite
giant ass questions, woman? What are some small things you can do that are each a 2-week-long seminar? Pick one of those.
Okay.
Less judgment, more. I mean, we didn't even talk about relationships.
I know. We might have to have an encore episode.
We absolutely should.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it on the way over, where I think I'm in my 11th, 12th year of marriage.
That's amazing.
And it's been awesome. And I was thinking about, like, hey, what really made it work?
Well, I was going to ask you what makes that work, because that's always the question I want to ask anybody that's been in a relationship of more than 10 years. Let's just say, like, how is it working for the two of you? What are you doing to make it work? Because my longest relationship is 5 years, and every relationship I've been in has been amazing, helped me learn and grow and step up to the next level in a certain way. But I don't believe that every relationship is meant to last forever. Like, I don't believe in the Disney movie paradigm of, okay, you met your person, you're together forever, therefore you win. I was like, that's not my definition of a successful relationship. And so many people want that long-term committed relationship, including my clients. So I always want to know, like, what's working for you and your partnership so that you've been able to maintain what I presume is a happy long-term relationship. Because long-term doesn't mean they're happy.
No, exactly. Thank you for clarifying. Super stoked on it. We have our 3 incredible kids. Like, I know a lot of people hit their shit during the pandemic, and we got even tighter.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and this is coming from a person who I never thought I'd be married. I never thought I'd have a long-term relationship.
Really?
I didn't believe I was worthy enough for it.
Oh.
I just didn't. Yeah, I had a very poor view of myself. And then so I treated myself in my relationships that way.
Sure.
So I didn't believe I deserved it, is really the word. But to answer your question, there's 3 things that really came to mind. Number 1, it's choice. You have to choose to be in the relationship, if not often, every single day. And choice and commitment go hand in hand. Like, commitment is harder than being on the fence. Commitment, now back into the scope of results, I think is the number 1 driver of results. People lack the ability to get gritty, to stay the course, to get their ass kicked and to get up, to stay committed. My coach told me, she said, the way I define commitment is doing the thing you said you were going to get committed to when the feeling that you said you were going to get committed to is long gone. And I'm like, oh God, that's a lot of words, but that makes sense.
It does. Commitment is not when it's working. It's like faith is not when you have it. Faith is when you don't have it, when you can't see it.
And it sucks.
So
it's like choice and commitment.
Yeah.
Making a commitment and honoring it, and then constantly being in choice. Because I was thinking about it, I'm like, all right, has it been roses the entire time? No.
Of course not.
Of course not.
Is your entire life roses the whole time? Like, how would you expect a relationship to be perfect?
Not. But I got, like, really clear on, there was a section, a time, a couple of months spot where I was just, like, not stoked. And I was choosing to look at all the things and to see all the things that, like, annoyed me, that didn't work, that bothered me, that wasn't right. And so the experience I was having at that time was broken and disconnected. Like, it just wasn't vibing. And then it was a morning during a gratitude practice. This is kind of an answer to the question that I didn't skirt the room come back to. Looking at my gratitude practice, and it just hit me. I'm like, this is a choice that I get to make every day. And I chose to do that morning's gratitude practice on everything that was right, everything that I loved, everything that I fucking adored, that I was so lucky to be in. And instantly the experience changed. She did nothing else. She didn't know. This is my own internal thing, good and bad. She's going around being who she was, and all of a sudden I loved her 10 times more. I was happier. I was more connected. So, like, what I chose to look at informed how I experienced a relationship. So part of it is choosing, looking for what works, looking for what's right, looking for the things that are cohesive. And I'm not saying you ignore the stuff that doesn't work, because like everything else, you're always working on it. But there's also like the non-negotiable. There's like, here's what we set up. Here's our agreements in this commitment. If you break those agreements, then, you know, okay, we're done. Or we shift. We make a new agreement in our marriage. So once you have that set up, then it's choice and commitment. Because also, like, back to the bad part, I think a lot of times, and you tell me what your experience, when people are in the relationships and they start to look for the things that aren't working, and that choice is gone, then that leaks into their commitment, and that makes commitment get soft. And like a lot of the couples that I've coached who've stayed together and who haven't made it, 80-90% of them regret the step out. It wasn't this conscious thing. It was because they got lost in their own, she doesn't do this anymore, he doesn't do this anymore, blah, 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 blah. I'm looking over here, commitment breaks, which again is easier to be on the fence, to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, than to be like, I'm fucking planted, bro.
For sure.
And then they have the step out, and then like their life blows up, and they regret it. There's a good 10 to 15% who are like, it was on purpose and right and like different. So that's where I feel bad. I'm like, ooh, if you just understood commitment and choice, then you would actually be co-creating the relationship of your dreams with that person, rather than you dumping on them or they dumping on you.
Or expecting someone to be your source of happiness.
Oh, that's a bunch of horseshit.
I know. It's like, well, you're going to make me happy. It's like bullshit. No one can make you feel anything. And that's why, with everything you just said, I love that I get to work with single women, because it's preemptive. It's like, who are you going to be? How are you going to view what a relationship is, so that you start with intention and not this false Hallmark movie idea of happily ever after, and you're going to make me happy. You're going to save me. And it's complete bullshit.
No, okay, second answer to your question is to actually work with a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing, to help them understand that. Because a lot of people will bring their timelines, their Hallmark, their whatever into the relationship, and that other person has a version of it, and they crash together, and they don't understand that it's all built on whatever, and they never get it together. So doing that inner work first, understanding what do I believe about marriage? What do I believe about relationship? What's my relationship with money? Like, where did I learn this? What do I really want? Am I living my parents' dream, or am I living my fucking life? Like, unwinding and getting clear, that's the actual tight version of it. Getting clear on who they are at their core, and then moving into it. I would say the other thing that came to mind was just like radical and kind honesty. I don't believe, just like judgment, brutal honesty is horseshit. Kindness or being a dick is always a choice. It's always a choice. So kind honesty. And it's funny because we don't, it's a little nuanced. Like, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. So if I showed up, we're on Zoom, we're on camera, and if I had, broccoli in my teeth, you would tell me out of kindness, you would be honest. Even though I might get a little embarrassed, like, oh shit, but I would be like thankful. But on the other hand, and tell me if you've been in this situation, your thoughts, if we were dating and I got this new, or the jeans, hey babe, how do these pants look on my butt? And you're really pumped about them, and you're like, ooh, they do not look good, but I don't want to hurt his or her feelings. It's that area of honesty that I'm talking about, because you'll, out of kindness, take the broccoli out of my teeth, but out of kindness, you won't tell me
I'll let you
that I look like a jackass.
Right. But it can be, you can say something like, honey, you always look amazing. I think you're so sexy, and I don't think those are the most flattering pants on you.
100%.
Like, you could say it's so, you could make it into something really kind.
Lots of ways to do it, but I think, like, to get down to it, if you do that with your partner, like, to answer the question, how do you make these what was really made my relationship awesome? It's that. It's because what we're doing, this is a weird way to say it, but we're training each other to trust each other and to tell the truth. So even if it's uncomfortable for you, even if you don't like the answer, but it's kind and it's honest, and I promise to always be honest with you, then I'm training you to always believe me, and vice versa. Now we know we can trust each other no matter what, and it's safe, even when I don't like your answer. But it's real, and I know that I can go to bed knowing that we're okay. That's been a big integral part Like, honesty, obviously it's a fundamental thing, but I think it's in those nuanced moments to just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you've got my back no matter what.
Exactly.
Because it's in those other moments where we don't say it. Like,
and that's partnership.
Yep.
And that's a high level of viewing partnership, because there's still, I believe, the majority of the population, they go into partnership for different reasons. Whether they're just young and naive and think, oh, we love each other, or they're just going into it for money or sex or companionship or whatever it is. But for me and my clients, we're going into partnership for a much higher level way.
Yep.
Let's just say, or meaning. And I would be curious to know, what is your reason to be in partnership? What was your intention of getting into partnership? And maybe it's different today than what you would have said 11 years ago.
It's 100% different. Back then it was to have to spend my life with somebody who I felt like was my best friend and who I loved. And that's still there. Yeah. And then it changed to build a family and to have this thing with kids and this interaction, this little 5-pack.
Yeah.
and then I got really clear that relationships exist. This is gonna sound weird, but like a lot for personal growth. That my partner is my greatest teacher and mirror. And if we're both doing that for each other, then we're both expanding and becoming better leaders in our own lives and for our communities. And that just brings us tighter and tighter and tighter. So it's kind of all of the above: companionship, best friend, somebody who I can play with, someone who I'm attracted to, someone who I'm building this legacy of a family with, and then someone who just fucking shows me where I suck ass and like where I'm not quite as evolved as I think I could be. To be that mirror for you of the shadow. Yeah, and that's it. But that's like back to that on it. Without that, it doesn't happen. Or like you were saying, if the reason is for sex or for this or for that, it's shallow. This is where, and I think we're kind of on the same page with organized religion. Like, not the hugest fan. And there was something about that courtship that on this end makes sense. Like, oh, pause before you start banging each other and like really get to know the essence of each other. Yeah. Like, get a partnership and a friendship. And then you throw the other stuff. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. The rest of it, I don't know. Right. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but like that intention, I'm like, okay, cool, because it's built on something that is more concrete. Yeah. That's it for me. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I know it's exactly what my clients want. Like, you're a very good archetype of what I would call the divine masculine. In how it is that you're showing up and your purpose, your passion, who you are as a person, who you are as a partner, who you are as a father. Like, you're doing an exceptional job of showing up as that archetype of what a lot of women are looking for. So I'm going to ask you personally, what would be the advice that you would give to these women that are like, I want to be with this type of man? Oh, goodness. Other than working with you, and like, that's not a plug, but I'm really serious. It's really getting to understand what your values are, what you're willing to take, what you want in your life, what's important, what the framework of you, like, who are you? Just get to know the real you beyond what you were taught by your parents and by your culture and by your society. What's real for you in here? Start there. And for those of you listening to the pod and you don't see the video, Anthony's pointing to his heart when he says, what's real for you in here? And then it's to honestly and clearly communicate that. So I think it gets a little bit harder, and it's fun. It actually is a lot harder, because if we just go the old way, you learn it during the relationship. That's why the divorce rate is so high. That's why it's just like really hard. But if you know all of that stuff moving into it, that informs and dictates the conversations you have with potential suitors, and they're either going to get on board or they're not. But if they get on board, then you have that framework from day one. You're fucking good. Like, you're good. And I think for me, we got lucky, divine intervention. My mentor, who I was working for at the time, put on this really big retreat, and we were like 3 months into dating, and I invited her, and that became like the framework for how we communicate with each other.
Amazing.
So it was like
right in the beginning,
right in the beginning,
this higher level of connection and communication.
Yeah, we were into personal development, seminar work, and coaching.
Yeah.
At the beginning, that's how our relationship was born.
Strong
but then I also go
foundation.
to commitment and choice and honesty.
Yeah.
There's also in front of like a bunch of women every day. I'm teaching yoga, and you're either gonna get committed and trust ourselves and be honest, or we're not. So it's almost like we got thrown in the fire really quickly, and she's shared about it, so it's okay. That like that was hard in the beginning because like, all right, go to work, and then I'm in front of, you know,
bunch of hot girls all the time.
A couple
yoga
hundred
clothes.
hot chicks, a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm traveling the country, like leading trainings and the same thing. And she's at home, and I'm like, yeah, if we don't have our shit together, that can go sideways quick. So I'm like, it's a choice and it's a commitment. And that's where values, like all of it comes into play. And that's why I use the word safe. I don't use that word often, but it's like, oh, I'm safe here. Like I'm in a room, you know what I mean? With all these potential, call it obstacles to the marriage, you know, whatever it is, like
jailbait.
Not jailbait.
I'm kidding, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, like, okay, I'm fine because I know who I am.
Exactly.
I'm clear on me. I know what I stand for. I know what's important. I know what matters, and everything else is everything else. It just gets super, super easy.
When you know
So
who you are.
do the inner work. Get clear on who you are. Get clear on what matters. And work with a professional, because it's, put it this way, if books alone worked, then again, we also wouldn't be here. If we can control our thoughts, everyone would be happy. If books alone worked, we'd be fine. So it's a combination of everything. It's professionals, it's friends, it's trusted mentors, it's people who've been there, it's people who've messed up. It's like back to the judgment. It's look at the world objectively and learn from it all, and then piece it together. I think that's a really good playbook.
I think that's a really beautiful way to wrap up the episode.
Great.
Because I very much enjoyed our conversation. I know we could sit here and chat forever.
We should just do a part 2.
I agree. No, I 100% want to do a part 2. I want to get into relationships a little bit more. I want to get into manifestation a little bit more. As I was joking before we hit record when I was at your last yoga class, I was like, I just want to record what you say during yoga.
So do I. I wish I would.
How could you do? Yeah, I think you should set up a phone or something and like live stream it.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, well, it's. I set an intention.
Okay.
Every class I teach, every time I'm in front of somebody, a client specifically, I was like, this is going to be the best session that has ever come out of me.
Yes.
So I set the intention, and I just call in from all the sources. Like, it's not me, it's a channel. I try to be as open as I can, but I set that intention, then I just let it rip from there, and like feel what's happening in the room. Like we were talking about upstairs, I'm a practitioner of human psychology, and 15 years later, it's a lot of one-on-ones, it's a lot of seminars, it's a lot of classes. There's an archetype of humans. Like I can see how different people are going to be based on practice and experience, and then I'll just go from there through the channel, or let the channel guide me based on past experience. So like none of it's winged, it's all prepped, and it's prepped in trust and open. That makes sense?
It completely makes sense, because I do the exact same thing. I just trust. I'm like, speak through me. Like, I'm here, I'm available to lead, to guide, to serve. Like, it's not me doing the work. Like, I'm not the source, but the source moves through me.
Yeah, it does. Same source.
Yeah.
Okay, when are we gonna do part 2?
We'll have to check our calendars. But to wrap this up, where would you like to guide people to? I mean, obviously, if they're local to Denver, they can come to the Yoga Box, or they can come to retreats. I know you have one coming up in Costa Rica.
Thank you. A couple of places. So yeah, if you're local, I travel a lot to teach yoga and to do seminars. Costa Rica.
Yeah, remember I was like, I want to come to this, and you're like, it's in Pennsylvania, or
Yeah.
Philly or something.
Yeah.
I was like,
You're
kidding.
like, just kidding.
Nah.
I think the easiest way to connect with me is on social. So Anthony Chavez Yoga on Instagram. I think it's the same on Facebook.
Okay.
It's the same for sure on Threads and X. Yeah, Anthony Chavez Yoga. Like you'll find me.
Okay.
And then the big ways that we can work together right now are the retreat is on deck. You're actually the first person to hear this, well, publicly.
Okay.
When does this come out?
This will come out in a couple weeks. So it's the end of March right now. The next 2 episodes are scheduled out, so it'll probably be like end of April.
Okay. Second person. So I have my own coaching certification program launching in a couple of weeks.
Amazing!
Yeah,
wow.
I'm so stoked.
We'll put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was asking when it's out
Yeah.
because I haven't even like publicly said it out loud.
This is a
when
good
this comes
promo
out,
for it then.
Oh my God, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Thank you for letting me share it because
Yeah.
it's my life's work.
Yeah.
Everything I've ever learned from yoga, from parenthood, from being a man, it's all of the wins, the losses, the 15 years of personal development. Prior to that, coaching baseball,
Mm-hmm.
being in the mortgage, it's my entire life into this certification program. And it was born from conversations like this, like wanted to help yoga teachers and people who had incredible gifts and talents to share with the world.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to give them a structure and a way in which they can go out and help their communities and help build the ripple while also like making a really sweet business out of it.
Oh, I love that.
It just doesn't.
That's a lot of work, creating your own coaching certification program.
Oh my God, it was
Shit.
a lot of work. Yeah, we just wrapped up the beta
I
program 6
applaud
months
you.
ago.
Like, that's a lot of work.
It's interesting because it was a lot of work and it wasn't. It was like a
Okay.
ton of 15 plus years
Yeah.
of this, day in, day out. And then the work of it was simply just doing it.
Yeah.
So I did a beta test, had somebody record it, like you're saying,
Yeah.
take it down, in the manual it just formed, and we've edited it and stuff, and like it has this really sweet structure of the future, the past, the present. Like we're doing a bunch of really cool stuff. But it just, once I decided and I said, okay, you 5 people, you're doing this, we're going, it poured out of me.
Wow.
And then now like I haven't been this excited for anything.
I'm so excited. Okay, well, that's going to obviously go in the show notes. All of the links will go in the show notes so that people can find you and reach out. We're definitely going to have an encore episode, 150 million %.
That's a big ass number. Perfect.
I always like to ask every single one of my guests one final question, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's however you receive the question and however it is you want to answer it. But since the podcast is called Manifest It All, and all stands for abundance, love, and life of your dreams.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's kind of a catch-all. It's like, how can you get it all? The question is, what advice would you give to someone looking to manifest it all?
The advice I would give for someone looking to manifest it all would be to start to look at how they see the world. Are we universally supported or are we cosmically fucked? Start there. What is your worldview? And they'll find out based on their reactions to the world, based on what they're looking for. Because it's super easy to prove either one. If I said, "Hey, Em, prove to me that we're cosmically fucked," and you can show me in Google in 2 seconds.
Totally.
On the other hand, if I said, "Prove to me that we are universally supported and like it is all happening for us," you can prove that as well. So say start there, get clear on your worldview, and then start cultivating that into a daily practice. What are you looking for that is going right? How are you managing your energetic state? How are you interacting with other people? Is there gossip or is it looking at potential? God, and then you just start to take the actions that go with it. I think it's a simple formula that takes a long time and like it can go really deep. But worldview, look for what's going right. So let me get more nerdy. 90% of our thoughts are the same every day, roughly, subconscious. And again, back to the open program, that's just the program. So if you decide that we are cosmically supported, then you have to get diligent daily on things like gratitude practices, on things like looking for the good, on things like a morbid gratitude practice, like looking at it in the backwards way, on practices that I would say are taking something bad that happened and really simple practices. Why is this good? Why is this great? Why is this the best thing ever? and you just constantly train your brain to look for opportunity and for possibility and for potential and for what's right rather than what happened to me. So we slowly start to kill the victim mentality or consciousness. I don't believe anybody is one, like just a moment. And then that becomes your base layer. And then if that 90% of your subconscious thinking is rooted in those types of things, then you're going to experience the greatest life ever. It's like, period. That's it. And we see these people in our life. There's people who walk into the room and you're like, fuck, she's here. I want to be in. I want to hug them. They're energetically, vibrationally attractive. And then there's the what I call them, our loving Eeyores of our life. Or just like, ew, gross.
Right.
It's that. It's that work. It's what they're calling in. So manifesting it for me would be in that world that we just described, worldview, then the practices, and then making it a habit, making it unconscious. Your unconscious way of living is just immediately. And I'm super proud of myself that I get to say I do this. Like when I get my ass kicked when something happens, my first untrained, unconscious thought is, okay, why is this awesome?
Yes. How is this serving me?
And then I start looking.
Yep.
Or, right, because it's super easy to go like, why does this happen to me, blah, blah, blah. That's the opposite of manifesting, for me, anyway.
To me rather than for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it gets to that level of unconscious competence, like, boom, this happened. Great. Why is it a good thing? Do it in your head, pen and paper. Or another way to say it is just to practice inquiry a lot. I'm a huge fan of Byron Katie.
Me too.
And I probably got a lot of that from her, but that inquiry piece, just like, and then adding, why is this incredible? Why is this awesome?
Yeah.
Even in the worst shit.
Yep.
But when I say morbid gratitude and or morbid visualization, it's to go there. It's to think about, and like I've done this with the most important people in my life, like to look for the reasons. Or I can share with me, were you in the class when I talked about going blind?
No.
Like I got, how are we doing?
We're good.
Okay.
I would say 10 minutes tops. We gotta cut it because I have a luncheon. My
Great.
sister-in-law's birthday.
2 more minutes. I'll give you the short version, but when I was young, I got poked in the eye with a stick. I was blind for 3 weeks.
Whoa.
Wasn't sure if I was ever going to
Both
see it again.
eyes?
No, just the one.
Okay.
Got better. My vision is dog shit. I'm legally blind. I have a...
Still today?
I wear contact. Without my contacts, I'm legally blind. I have a cataract. I have an astigmatism, so like my eyes are gnarly. I have to go all the time and get them checked. And there's this big fear that I'm going to go blind and like victim blind. Like I'm going to lose everything. I won't be able to do X, Y, and Z. And so I applied this practice via my mentor to my eyes. Why is it good? Why is it a fucking gift? And I sat with them like couldn't, like why would me going blind be a gift? And I found it. Like it took days and I cried. And like when I shared it in that class, I was a hot mess. I keep it together today, but it was like if and when I lose my ability to see, I am so grateful because I'll never judge anybody by their looks or their body again. I will only be able to see their soul. And I can't fucking wait for that day.
Wow.
I can't wait for that day to not physically judge somebody by their hair or their body or their skin, clothes, anything.
Because it's
like
automatic judgments. We don't even
again,
try.
it's back to that like system that runs. So, and we're in this work and we're like, people were like, oh, you judge people? Like, yeah, unconsciously, but then we don't act on
I'm
it.
not trying to.
So I found that gift in something that was super horrific, and you can do this for people in your life dying, the dog, losing it all, anything. If you find the gift in it and why you would be excited for it to happen, now you're really living in abundance because it fucking doesn't matter. You're already taking it for a gift and you're moving forward and you already know that it's serving you. But that all takes like the daily practices, the daily rituals, the writing, the journaling, the doing this work, the getting clear, the also like uncovering your blind spots. We talked about that a little bit upstairs. I think it's a big deal. Really getting clear on the stuff that you don't know, that you don't even know about yourself and how you're showing up. Doing all that, all of that, or people call it shadow work. Getting clear on all of that. And then we're like super, super abundant. But that would be a really fun practice for people to try on. Get your biggest, gnarliest fear and find why it would be good for you.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not
for the faint of heart.
No, like,
but it will change your life.
And I'll be honest, like most of my family members, I'm good. Well, my 3 little ones, I haven't found it yet. Like I can't even attempt to be like, oh yeah, if one of them got sick, right? Yeah, our bodies. But then look at that reaction, and that's the opposite of freedom. That's suffering. So gnarly, huh? But good.
Yeah.
Take it where you want.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really powerful final lesson and takeaway for this episode. That is. See that? More to come.
This one.
We left a little cliff note. So
cliffhanger.
That's it. Yeah, cliffhanger. So thank you again so much for sharing your time and energy on the pod. We'll put all the links down in the show notes for people to find you.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited for the coaching certification program that you've got coming out.
Oh my God, thank you. And thank you for having me. You've been such an awesome gift. And I mean that. Like, we connected immediately, and we vibe out, and we've had some awesome conversations behind the desk and in and around yoga. Like, I'm really glad that you stepped into the class that day.
Thank you. I feel very grateful. I count my lucky stars. Like, every time I come to class, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this human.
Yeah, it's a really sweet life.
It's pretty good. All right. On that note, the end. Voila.
110.
Bye.